Hello, we're back on Super Gamer.
Hi, I'm paying
with
attention.
Erika Deak.
Yeah, it's me.
And you're actually my neighbor at the
I
booth.
am. I'm right there.
Yeah.
But I'm right here.
But now you're right here. And also, we know each other from the AYB stream recently.
Yeah, Baseland.
Yeah, I was on camera. You were also on camber, but for Overwatch.
For Overwatch, yeah. I was casting Overwatch. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, and you were behind the scenes for me, so you were incredibly valuable.
Yeah, it was good. Having to correct the pronunciation of some teams.
Right.
That was a good one.
And what are you here? Why do you have a booth at FanQuest?
I have a booth here because I'm a 3D artist. As ED3 Design, I specialize in doing board game figures and stuff like that. Eventually, I'll be doing custom D&D, Pathfinder, Warhammer figures. Whoever might want a very specific piece, I'll be able to do for you. For those of you watching, I have some 3D prints here. This is a derby helmet that I have. This is the bigger version. Cool. I've done a smaller version that I've molded and casted and then painted in the Winnipeg Roller Derby League colors. I also have some Game of Thrones style coins that I'm doing that I sculpted by hand, casted again, or molded, casted hundreds of them, and then painted each one individually. It was a fun task. So that's where I'm currently at. I'm doing toys, figures,
sweet,
fun things.
When you say you make for board games, like would a board game company be like, hey, we need this figure? Or?
I'm gonna say yes. I would be able to do prototypes. I'm not capable of doing giant, massive orders. I wouldn't be able to fill out.
You wouldn't be doing 1,000.
Thousands of pieces. I'd be like, maybe not. Maybe not this time around. In the future, that might be a good chance or a good possibility of that. But right now, it's just more kind of one-offs and doing the custom pieces.
So I feel like often I hear someone go like, oh, I do 3D printing, and I'm like, yes, and I don't know what that actually means. What is that?
So 3D printing. I don't directly do the 3D printing myself yet, but 3D printing is you have your machine that can print whatever material it is. There's SLS printing, or I guess FDM printing is what people typically think of for 3D printing, which is you have your extruder that pushes out plastic, and layer by layer it builds up your object that you had built. There's also SLS or SLA printing, which you dip the print bed into resin, and then a UV light cures that resin layer by layer, and it works in reverse and brings it out slowly as it cures that layer of resin that's touching where the next layer is. And that is the type of printing that I will be getting into, especially for D&D figures and the smaller pieces, because it's a lot more highly detailed. But they're basically the same thing. It's just how.
So is it sort of are you digitally sculpting something, and then
Yeah.
you're like, hey, do this, printer?
Yeah, basically. So I do my sculpts through ZBrush or ZBrush Core right now. So I sculpt whatever design I want. I make sure that it's safe for 3D printing, as in the 3D printer would actually be able to print that thing. You can't have weird holes, and things need to be connected that should be connected. And then you make sure it's decimated properly and small enough for a printer to actually handle it, because if your file size is way too big, it's just going to crash and not understand how to do it. And then particular file types. And then also, so not only once you finish actually creating an object, you have to bring it into a program that would split the object, which is they converts the object into G code, and then you have to make sure your base is correct and you have supports, because you can't just have some overhanging things. There's a lot that goes into 3D printing. That's not just the art part of it.
Right.
I don't know if that answered your
sounds
question.
Complicated.
It's complicated, but also kind of not at the same time. Again, I'm not someone who directly deals with printers yet. I just do the files on the back end. So I don't have as much insight as someone who has been dealing with the 3D printers directly. But I do understand someone who has to create for the printers what is needed.
Right. Your Game of Thrones coins. I overheard you saying, what was it, Jeffrey?
It's Jeffrey Bannister.
Right. Instead of Joffrey Lannister.
Instead of Joffrey Lannister.
Am I allowed to say that?
I think so. Yeah. I've been going with the safe route of saying they're Game of Thrones inspired tokens of quote Jeffrey
Game of
Bannister.
Thrones with an umlaut over
yeah. Game of Thrones.
I also noticed you've got a screen there, and one of your brain sculpture, your skull sculpture, it says you did on Twitch.
Yeah, I actually do live streams on Twitch. I do 3-hour speed sculpts or whatever I feel like doing. Right now I'm streaming Wednesday evenings and Saturday evenings. That schedule's about to open up, and I'll be able to stream some more. And I do also have a Patreon now that I'm going to open it up to people who are patrons to actually vote and like choose what I sculpt next on stream. And then you'll be able to just tune into those and chat with me and ask what I'm doing. And I'm just going to talk about my process while I'm actually working on a sculpt.
Is it hard to both speed sculpt and talk?
A little bit. Because 3 hours is a short period of time to sculpt something. Well, it depends on what you're sculpting.
Seems like a long stream, but a short sculpt.
It's a long stream, but a short sculpt. Because you always get through the 2.5 hours, and you're like, oh God. I have a lot of work that I need to do for this to be anywhere near complete. So there's the last part of it's just like, there's so many things happening, and sometimes you'll get people like asking questions. You're like, cool, no, I want to answer the questions, but it's just like, and like I want to be, but like I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to think, and there's too much happening. But usually it's okay, especially near the beginning. I'm just like, well, I'll start sculpting, and someone will be like talking, and I'm like, oh, talk, and like 15 minutes later, I'm like, that's a good portion of my time that I just wasted. And like,
so it's a 3-hour limit.
Yeah, I give myself a 3-hour limit, and that's usually just the sculpting part. If I'm going to do some texturing and like behind like extra stuff afterwards, I don't normally count that. Sometimes I do like hit that 3 hour after finishing everything, and I'm like, cool. Like my goblin that's on my website, I sculpted that, digitally painted it, and well, actually the one that's on my website is the version I did lighting and rendering afterwards, which can take a bit of time, especially with the rendering point of it, but I managed to paint it as well in 3 hours, and I'm like pretty happy with how he turned out.
Cool.
But yeah, certain projects I'm just like, oh God, this was a bad idea. I do not have enough time for this. It's a great challenge, really.
But I mean, sometimes I imagine you might be like, oh, and I like this, I'm going to continue it later.
Yeah, there's a lot of them, like, especially now, a lot of my speed sculpts are things in future I want to continue on and like print, because like I did my zombie, and then he needs a little bit of work, so if I do print him with SLS, he needs some drainage holes, because with SLS resin is expensive, and you don't want to cure giant solid chunks of resin if you don't need to, so you need to have holes on the inside so it can basically be hollow, and then when I'm casting them I can fill in those holes, cast the mold, and then have a solid object after I make a cast from that mold.
Cool. You mentioned your website. If people want to buy your stuff, where do they go?
If they want to buy my stuff, go to Erika with a K, Deak.com. Live store will be up shortly once I have more things for sale. Now that I have my coins all done, the store will be up soon. You can also check out my Patreon, ED3 Design, if you want to get some behind the scenes, get special discounts, sales, have some input in what is being created next. And that's currently where I'm at right now.
All right, and you're also currently right beside us
right
at
beside
FanQuest.
you.
So if you want to go check out her booth, come see us and come see Erika.
Yeah, I'm right there.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Right.